Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Anthem. I played it on the Xbox One. It's also available on the PS4 and PC. So let's start out with the story of Anthem. You play as a freelancer piloting a javelin, and you immediately start out in the heart of rage with another team of freelancers trying to put an end to this gigantic cataclysm storm. That all goes to shit, and you go about being a regular freelancer for a while until you find out that there's a big bad doing big bad shit with the heart of rage. In reality, it's not a really intensely new story. It's actually been told before, which is one of the downfalls of this game, because we were promised a Bioware story, something huge and epic, and while it tries to be huge and epic, it tries to be huge and epic in a short package. One other huge problem I have with the storytelling in this game is that it is very much like Mass Effect. You are the Pathfinder, you are a Spectre. In both of those situations, you are basically the one or maybe part of a super elite few, which doesn't make sense in this game because every time you drop into a mission, there's 3 other freelancers who are doing that exact same mission because they are supposedly the one. It just leads to this weird feeling to all of the storytelling. I've also got to say about the story and writing and whatnot is that there's not a lot of really interesting characters in this game, quite frankly. I found most of them incredibly uninteresting. You can go around and talk to a bunch of other people like you would in a traditional Bioware game, but most of them, in my opinion, weren't worth talking to. Honestly, the only reason I did talk to most of them was because you can up your reputation with the Arcanists and the freelancers, etc. if you talk to these people and respond in a specific way. But to put it simply, Bioware quality story, my ass. This was nothing special. Let's get into the audio. First off, when you're in Fort Tarsis is kind of fucked up in that there is audio, but it's so muted that it's really obnoxious. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't make the city feel alive. Really, it's a complaint with the mixing. They really need to go back and remix the audio in this game, and that's a problem with some of the voices as well. When I was out on missions and you're talking to a specific person and you can barely hear them because it's a poorly mixed game. That being said, some of the ambient sound effects when you are out in the world are pretty cool. The waterfalls, the guns, the animals, those all sound good. As for the voiceover work, it's almost hit or miss. It's for the most part good. But there are some characters where their accents change at times and the way they deliver lines is really weird and it doesn't feel like it's part of that character's personality. I mean, there are a couple of weirder characters who speak in a slightly weird way, but these are more normal characters and it's just poor voiceover delivery, quite frankly. As for the gameplay, it is a third-person pseudo-MMO loot grind kind of RPG. And we've seen this pseudo-MMO thing growing with games like Destiny or The Division. Unfortunately, with Anthem, all the neat mechanics that they put in there have something that hold them back. For example, you have a massive world to explore in the free play mode. The problem is, if you're out in free play mode, you can't just trigger a mission even from a menu. You have to go back to Fort Tarsis to do it. To go along with that, it's a huge world and there's a big ass map to go with it that you can't set waypoints on. And they've shown it off a bunch in the trailers and whatnot about how you get around this huge world, like flying around, which works for shit. I say that because you can fly for about 20 seconds before you overheat and have to land. The only way you can fly longer than that is flying in water or when there's rain, because that will help cool you off. Which, yes, that makes sense, but being able to fly at 20 seconds at a time when you're trying to explore in free play mode is horrible. The world is fucking huge. Which ties into another problem with gameplay. The world is fucking huge and incredibly fucking empty, and it feels very much like publisher interference. It feels like EA stepped in and went, nah, just release it now and we can plug the other shit in later. Which, let's address that shit. The whole EA servers thing is fucking horrible. I got disconnected so many damn times. It was incredibly frustrating. It really pissed me off. Getting dropped in the middle of missions or in the middle of free play, oh, it's horrible. At least when you're out in free play or in a mission and you get dropped, once you reload, you still get all the stuff that you found or earned or whatever, but it's still horrible that when you're in the middle of a mission getting dropped. It's just an awful feeling. I mentioned that it's kind of a loot grindy game. Let's talk about the loot. It's stupid. It's shit. Yes, you get more powerful weapons, but once you figure out the gun you like, you can just keep getting that exact same style of gun. There's no variance in it. All the LMGs look the exact same. All the assault rifles look the exact same. All the shotguns, etc. You get the idea. It's just lazy. Loot grind games should give you a bunch of different looking gear and a bunch of different stats to go along with it. Whereas the weapons in this game all are the same color and the same weapon. There's no real variance apart from the stats. Let's address some other problems I have with the gameplay. One of the cool things in combat is that you can do these combos. You and another freelancer use your rocket or your grenades, which have an elemental effect of some sort, and it creates a combination attack that does extra damage. Sounds cool, except for they don't tell you what is the primer and what is the trigger. You have no fucking clue, so it's not even experimentation because you don't know what these other guys have thrown out there that you then added onto to create the combo. Let's also address the market in this game where you can buy supplies to do crafting. It's garbage because if you need more than one supply, it takes forever because you can only buy multiple items one at a fucking time. There's also a horrendous mission that just kind of grinds the game to a halt and forces you out into free play so that you can complete certain tasks to continue the actual game. Despite the fact that these tasks don't necessarily feel like they really have anything to do with continuing forward. Let's get into the controls. Honestly, the aiming, the flying, the moving, I think those all work well. I found that for the most part, the controls were very responsive. I did have one problem. I used an LMG and I would be holding down the trigger for continuous fire and all of a sudden my gun would stop firing. It wasn't that I needed to reload or anything, it would just stop firing for no reason. This is not a problem I have had in any other game. It's really annoying. Also, horrible control mechanic. Interact with objects and change weapons, both being hold down the X button in my case. It's so annoying that when you're trying to interact with an object, you suddenly switch guns. Apart from those control issues, I did actually think that the flying worked far better than I expected it to, and the movement was very responsive, and so was the aiming. Then there's the visuals. This is a gorgeous game. I was legitimately impressed at how beautiful this game is. From cutscenes to gameplay, it's just fantastic looking. I love the design of the javelins, the characters, what they're wearing, Fort Tarsus. I love what the world that you play in looks like, the animals, the enemies. I think it all looks really, really good. Honestly, the graphics are the most standout thing in this game for me, and that's tragic because there's so much that should be better than just the graphics. To wrap this up, Anthem launched like a lot of these other games have launched, where there's just not enough from the start. But not only that, everything good that Anthem has going for it in theory has something that holds it back. A lack of content, the way the controls work, the way pretty much every mechanic works, there's something good, but there's also a negative that holds it back from being an excellent game. This is one of those games that in a year, when they release a Game of the Year version of this game, it will be totally worth picking that up for $60. But as it stands, Anthem is janky and just lacking in content, and I did get to the end game, and that was a whole lot more of rinse and repeat and just grind for gear. The sad thing is, I can see the potential of this game, but it just reeks of publisher interference. What makes that sad is you can see the negative effects of it and how that has affected this game, and quite frankly, it's kind of scary for Bioware right now. Because as of filming this video, Bioware has had the massive flop of Andromeda and now Anthem, and that's scary because EA is not afraid to take a company out back and shoot it. So to wrap up my review, as of right now, Anthem is a skip. I would fully recommend buying this game in a year when there's the Game of the Year edition with all the content, if it lives long enough to get all that content. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me what you think of these pseudo MMO games that they're coming out with? You know, like Destiny or The Division. And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share or subscribe. Have a good one.